with the gearbox out the way, let's see a bit more what we're going to do. I'm going to lose this bracket for the minute, which I'm hoping is just seam welded down either side. Get rid of that. This section here I've added for the 5-speed gearbox, so get rid of that. And then we're going to notch this box section and put the, you'll see a bit better in a minute, but basically put the angle inside, so we shouldn't lose too much strength out of that, and it'll look exactly the same from underneath. Then what we're going to do to give ourselves something to put the rear gearbox mount on is put a plate across there. Put the gearbox. I've got the gearbox off with the engine still in, which makes things a lot quicker and easier. Put the gearbox back on. Check the gearbox fits into our recess here nicely. When we've done that, bolt the gearbox mounts on and cut those. You see the two ears, which are that's the standard MGB rear gearbox cross member. Bolt them to the gearbox and basically keep lowering the gearbox down, cut them off until we get the gearbox where we want, then tack them, then take the gearbox out again, weld those in properly, and we should be good to go then, which is easy if you say it fast. So probably going to take slightly more than I need to out of this to give a little bit of clearance, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. Righty. That's what we were looking to achieve. Bit of metal inside. And then what I'm going to do is basically that, and then box the ends in. Wherever I use this piece of steel, because the cut hasn't been, it's actually not too bad. What I might want it to be is flush with this edge, so I might straighten this cut up on this side, because it comes, as I'm cutting across, it came this way a bit, and then put the piece flush with this piece of steel. Yeah, that's okay. These are plates that I added in the past as a weld underneath, so when I get the chassis upside down, I'll take those two off and clean those rails up. So yeah, I'm going to straighten that cut, clean this edge up, and yeah, really I want it flush, so it'll run straight across into this 90, and I'll probably make, what's that, 3mm, probably make another 90, might get away with it with this, but I can weld the squares that are going to go on the end, I can weld onto this section before it goes in, but it doesn't look like it's painted to me, and that is in amazingly good condition. So this chassis is, unless it had a replacement chassis, which I don't think it has, 1956. Oh yeah, there we go. Flippin' heck, it's perfect in there. Right, so clean this weld off there, straighten this cut up here, clean this edge up, and then fold a 90 to go in there, cut little squares to go on the ends, weld those on. That's that part done, and then cut a plate to go in here, and we're cooking on gas, sort of. And it should, from underneath, the only thing you'll see is this extra plate, I think. Because we've been able to drop the back of the gearbox down, it should mean noticeably less modifications to this transmission tunnel, because as you can see, this, to fit the 5-speed gearbox that was in there, this had been, it was like a rough aluminium plate which had been hammered out into a rock style, yeah, it wasn't very good. So we're going to repair that. I'm going to need to do some tweaking around it, but by having the gearbox drop down a little bit more, there should be less modifications to that, but we'll see. Right, next bit. So put the end pieces on. Need to take a little bit more out of the chassis, but I think you can see where we're going. New welder is absolutely brilliant. So I need to bring that one back flush. This one's alright. Top edge I can grind when we get in there. So I'm going to take a little bit more off this side, so that will go in there, and that should do what we want, possibly. We will follow some grinder. We are getting there. New welder is a bit good, better than me. I apologise for my wonky welds, but yeah, all right. So get out the grinder, try and clean that up as best we possibly can. That's just, I've just wire brushed it with a hand wire brush to clean the worst of it off. Obviously there was more, that's still quite hot, marks and things, but yeah, we'll clean that up, and that should give us enough room for the sump of the overdrive gearbox to drop down into. Righty then. So that is kind of struggled again. I have got a die grinder, so I might just do a little bit in the corner. You can't, even with a really small slitting disc, you can't get in there. But two edges are not bad. That's not completely straight, but the gearbox is on top of this and the body's on top of that, so you can't see this. It's just trying to make it as nice as possible. When these are parts of what I fitted previously, these two plates, so I'm going to cut those off when I get underneath. But that's pretty happy with that. I would have thought most of the strength is back into it. This is the plate I've made to go further forward, if you can see that. So I think what I'm going to do is tack that. Well, I'm going to clean the front of the chassis rail off. We're going to need to weld it, tack that in 3 places, and then put the gearbox back in and see how we're looking, and then there'll be a moment of victory or a moment of, oh no, this is not done according to plan. Fingers crossed, it'll be great. Right, so I sacrificed this cross member, which is a bit of a gut there because I cleaned and painted this for my car, but fine. Cut these gearbox mounts out. Just drill the spot welds out. I'm going to separate this out to piece, which is part of the original cross member. I haven't done that one yet. Then we'll clean them up, put the gearbox back on, and then we should be able to bolt the mounts to the gearbox, lower it down and notch them and cut them. I think they'll need to be notched into that centre cross member and then welded onto the flat plate, but we'll see how they lie. So yeah, that's where we are so far. Really good steel. This less so, this is 70s, but the chassis itself is proper. Welds really nice, and anyone who's welded modern steel, there is a difference. Okay, next I've got to find my chisel now. After a lot of faffing about, we're sort of getting there. this one needs to be, got the gearbox where I want it, so I need to weld that in that position so it's straight. It needs to, this one's pretty good, again it needs to do that, but I need to take a little bit off this edge. That's what it's been, is like test fit, cut a little bit off, test fit, cut a little bit off. I think it's not too bad. I think the gearbox needs to go that way very slightly. I can do that by taking a touch off this left hand bracket. But height wise we're doing pretty good. Yeah, we're getting it. So hopefully I'll get it so these brackets are tacked, and then I'll be able to take the gearbox out again and weld it all properly. That's the plan anyway, but we'll see. Right, success, sort of. So that's with our spacer plate out. That's the gap that we've got, which it's not going to move that much. Both brackets are tacked. Now we've got to see whether we can, I've had to drill the front hole on the brackets out slightly. We should, with the mounts loose, be able to get it out, but we'll see now. Oh. Alright, maybe we won't. Maybe we need to jiggle it a bit. Right, hang on a second. 2 hands for that. With the other side, yeah, I think you need to do that in an MGB actually. So if we go a bit higher, that can come out. Now we know we're reasonably happy. Bend that edge back there so that's touching the cross member. I'm going to put another tack on both of them, and gearbox can come out, and then we'll put some seams and fill some gaps and things. I think what I'll need to do is trim these down flush, so they're coming into the, or I might have to build the transmission tunnel around them a little bit. We'll come back to that in a second.